Okay, so episode 4 is going to consist of wiring and possibly the cam install, oil pump, stuff like that. Possibly the transmission rebuild. It all depends on how long this is going to take. Well, I'm going to try to shorten it down for you guys because wiring isn't something you can really show. But a lot of people don't like it because they think it's confusing and it's hard. But me, on the other hand, I actually enjoy it. It's one of the better things I like to do on a car. So yeah, let's show you guys what we got going on. So we have no wiring on this engine whatsoever except for the coils, which it's all built into this bracket. But other than that, there's absolutely nothing on here. So the plan is to take a truck harness, rework it, make it shorter, and then we're going to run it along the back side right here over to this little box that I have traced out with a Sharpie. We're going to have a bulkhead connector right here. We're going to have a ground terminal right here and a power terminal right here. The bulkhead connector is going to connect to the actual engine harness itself, and it's held in with just a single 7mm bolt. So you remove that, throw everything on top of the engine, and it can pretty much get removed. The ground terminal is going to go somewhere on the engine block just to ground it out. The power terminal is going to run down to the starter, and then we're going to have a wire jumping from the starter over to the alternator, and that should be the engine bay. But the bulkhead connector, where I'm getting that thing from, is if you take a LS or even an S10 ECU that looks like this, you take the computer apart. On the back side of here, you cut off these pins and you cut this thing in half. Then you're left with this whole rail right here. And it's actually really useful. I actually have one over here that I can show you guys. So here's what it looks like after it's cut out of the ECU. Flip it on the back side, you have all these pins that you can tap into. So we're gonna have this guy sitting right up here somewhere, and that's essentially what the engine's gonna plug into. So like I said, there's not really much to show you on wiring, so I'll make this quite easy for you guys. Much better. So as you can see, all the wires pretty much have their rough spots on where they're going to be. And then we have everything labeled in the back right here. So then I've got this guy built, and it's going to be sitting somewhere on the firewall. If you bear with me for a second, I'll slap this thing together to show you. Okay, here it is all put together. And like I said, that's just going to sit right there on the firewall. And we have this little guy that the actual engine harness is going to get tapped into. And then all the wires are going to go, if I could get it untangled. We're going to go this way, so that's going to plug in right there. And there's that bolt that I was talking about where it tightens it down. So you just pop this off, slap it on the engine, and you're pretty much free to pull it. So I have some carbon fiber wrap for this thing. I didn't want to do it out of real carbon fiber, just due to the fact of I think the stainless is going to be stronger. But yeah, it should look pretty sweet when it's done, and function really well on getting everything removed fairly quick. So let me go ahead and get the harness wired up to this connector right here, and I'll show you guys the finished product. Okay, I just got off work and I have a little harness update for you guys. So it's like 98% finished. The only thing I have left is to extend these wires and attach it to the block for the ground. And then we have the oil pressure sensor and the dummy light that goes for it. So everything's all connected up to this bulkhead, and then from the bulkhead we have to run wires from the ECU that are going to come to the back of these pins, and then these two will link up like that. So I'm going to end up wrapping this thing in a thermal tape just to protect it from the heat, and then we'll throw some wire loom on it. But other than that, it's pretty much finished. So we aren't going to know if it's going to work until we actually get it on the engine and try to start it. But I'm pretty confident with how everything laid out, so I don't see there being any problems with it, but you just never know. So I'll keep you guys updated in a second once I get it all wrapped. Okay, I got everything wrapped and plugged into the engine, and as you can see from far away, you can barely tell that the wiring's there, but upon further examination, you can see it all right here. It blends in really well. So we come across the back of the intake, up along the passenger side, same thing, plugged into the oxygen sensor right there, and then down here it runs to the bulkhead. Now, this whole thing isn't bolted on yet, so we have this gap over here, but once it's all settled, it'll look really nice. We also have the terminals right there. We got this thing wrapped in carbon fiber. And then over here, this is what's going to house the lights and wideband. So all that stuff could stay with the car, and if we need to remove it, we could just pop it off right up here where everything goes. And then the wideband will have a connector somewhere back here. So yeah, I'm super happy with how everything turned out and how it fits. And then now we can start on wiring up the interior. So here we go. Okay, so what we have here is a panel that I built for my old setup. I'm going to use it for this car. But we have the ignition relay, the left turn, the right turn, starter, lights, and wipers. And I'm missing the cooling fan and fuel pump relay, but that's going to be in the back on a separate circuit controlled by a temperature switch. And I'll just have to run one wire to the fuel pump relay from the ignition to where they'll kick on when the ignition kicks on. But these will go to the switchboard, which will be somewhere on the dash up here. And then this guy back here will run to the instrument cluster where everything being fed from the engine, such as the tach, the oil pressure, stuff like that, will come onto here and then just go straight to the instrument cluster so I can see what's going on with the engine. And then I have an S10 ECU tray. It fits great for the LS engines and it's a really nice low profile. And of course everything's going to be fused. We have a main power bolt right here, an ignition bolt, and then a ground bolt. So then we come over here to the ECU. We have all the wires coming out of the ECU that are going to run to the opposite side of that bulkhead on the firewall. So it's going to connect all these pins, and then that's the way everything's going to talk to each other. Okay, so I got the ECU side of things done. Give you guys a quick rundown of it. Everything that goes on the left-hand side of the dash, such as the instrument cluster, the brake switch, the OBD port, all that good stuff, it's on this harness over here. We have the actual ECU connectors. We run across over here to the back side of the firewall where everything's going to its corresponding place on the engine. And we run down here, we have switched power, also known as ignition, that is controlling all the sensors and quite a few pins on the ECU. We have main power, which controls 2 wires on the ECU, and then we have quite a few grounds. So all this is pretty much ready to plug in and go. I'm just going to wrap it and then I'll show you guys what we have. Okay, starting at the engine harness, runs to the firewall, come back behind, it grabs it right there, runs to the back of the ECU, runs down to the power on the board, and we come over here, we have those guys that are going to connect to that block. So now we can get started on building the instrument cluster and fitting up the dash. Okay, I got the dash gutted and cut around the cage. As you can see, we went around the roll bar right here, came right here, cut it down there for the shifter, cut it up top for the airbag, and then same thing on the other side. So it came out pretty good. Now all I have to do is build a plate that goes back behind here for my gauge setup. And of course that's going to use the factory mounting points for the instrument cluster, so I think it came out pretty decent. But yeah, let me go ahead and throw you guys on a time lapse for building this instrument cluster. When building cars, you are bound to run into some issues or make mistakes or have some gremlins, so on and so forth. That's essentially what happened with me. I made a mistake. So the instrument cluster is finished. As you can see, it looks great. Everything checks out good on the back side. It's just a rat's nest, but everything works the way that it should. You get all excited because you get to install it and it doesn't want to fit. And the reason behind it is the back of the gauges hit this bar right here. So we're going to cut this guy out, put a bend in it, make it go to the bottom side of the steering column, feed it back across, and then we have to take a bar to reinforce it because it's going to lose strength when you put the bend in it. However, that didn't stop the build. So moving right along, a couple days went by and I built this guy. It's the dash and center console cover. It's a piece of stainless wrapped in carbon fiber. And then I have this switch panel that I built from my old car. I didn't end up using it, so I decided to put it on this car. It came out great. And then I also have a filler panel right over there. So now that that's done, all I have to do is go to the back of the car where I have the fuel pump relay, the cooling fan relay, and then I have two circuit breakers. One's a 80 amp that will control the fuel pump and cooling fan, and then I have a 100 amp that will control the rest of the car. It's going to feed to the main kill switch at the front of the car first, and then drop down and come to this board right back behind the dash. So essentially that'll take care of all the electronics. So I'll go ahead and pick you guys up once I bang that thing out. Come around back, and I have this panel built. I also have the battery tray installed, but I have these two circuit breakers. This one controls the main power. This one controls the cooling fan and fuel pump. I have a cooling fan relay. I have a fuel pump relay. And then I have the coolant reservoir strapped down to this battery tie down right here. And then the drain for it goes down to the bottom side of the car right there. So the reason why I'm giving you guys an update is because I ran into a little issue, and that is that the fuel gauge is reading wrong. And the cause of it is the sending unit is reversed. So this is the factory sending unit on the fuel pump basket, and it reads, I believe when it's full, like 93 ohms or whatever. It measures resistance, so there's no way of reversing the polarity on it. But if we start to fill up the car full of gas, the float starts to rise, and then as you can see, the gauge goes down. So yeah, it kind of sucked, but I have a fix for it, and I built a little bracket coming off the fuel pump housing right here, and I inverted the sending unit to where it's essentially reading it backwards. So all I have to do is extend these wires right here all the way to the top of the pump right there, and it should work. So yeah, then I have to run all these wires to up there, up underneath the dash. So still a lot of work ahead, but yeah, I'll pick you guys up once everything's working and we're getting started on wiring up behind the dash. So catch you guys later. Alrighty. So what's going on, guys? Today is July 5th, and yeah, I hope everyone had a really good Independence Day, because I know I sure did. You know, you have your typical group of friends, you all get drunk together, you set off some fireworks, and you almost light something on fire. But yeah, no worries about that. Everyone made it home safe. It was a really good night, and here we go. So sorry about the delay in videos. I just needed a break from the car. I was tired of looking at it, tired of working on it. I didn't want anything dealing with it. But yeah, now that I've had some time to, you know, get everything in check, we're back at it. So I believe I left you guys off with some of the wiring, and I also got this bar made. It goes beneath the steering column, so all I have to do is build a mount for that, and then cut out right here, notch it, and re-weld it in place of this one, but that'll be a different video. So today's main focus is to keep the car moving forward with some of this wiring right here, try to get it accomplished, and I'll keep you guys updated here shortly. So here we go. Alrighty guys, it's the end of the day and I made lots of progress on this thing. It might not look like it, but yeah, this is the luxury of not having a wife or kids. You know, you get to do this stuff inside your living room without the nagging coming along with it. So you could actually work at your own pace and be comfortable doing it. You know, flip on the TV, take breaks whenever you want to, rather than being cramped inside the car and not being able to move around. So I have everything tested. It's all working out great, and everything's on a quick connector. As you can see, there's an instrument cluster. This is for the OBD port. The switchboard is right here and the wideband is right here. So if we go to our switchboard, we have this red LED which indicates there's power throughout the car, and all we have to do is flip on ignition to be able to start it. So we have our starter right here, we have our left turn, right turn, we have ignition, we have low beams down, high beams up, and then we have wipers going up. So if we flip on ignition, you'll see the instrument cluster power on, the wideband power on, and we go to our low beams. You can see that the headlights turn on and the instrument cluster turns on. And then obviously same thing for high beams, but I just have to get a diode for that so the power doesn't bleed over to the other circuit. And then we have our wipers right here. And then obviously if there's a catastrophic failure inside the car, all we have to do is flip the ignition off and it kills everything. So I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. All I have to do now is clean up the harness a little bit and then reinstall it inside the car. So I'll keep you guys updated once I get that done. Change of plans, guys. So I'm not going to put the dash or the wiring inside the car, and that's because I want to kill two birds with one stone. So instead, I'm actually going to end the video right now. But the next video is going to entail pressure washing this thing out because it looks like crap, scotch brighting it, and repainting it. So I have to remove everything from the interior, but you guys will actually see how that gets done. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching, and be sure to hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment for any suggestions you might have, and be sure to subscribe because I have tons more projects. I have like 4 lined up right now, so you guys don't want to miss any of it. I'll catch you guys later.